very good. And when I went to hospital sick with asthma, the doctors were concerned about me going home. So I was in a domestic violent relationship in this life, that particular lifetime. And I kept going to hospital with a little boy and having near-death experiences, and came in and it was like I was beaten black and blue. And I would just, when I was going through remembering this past life, that woman who was me was being beaten up by a husband. But then every time I went to hospital, I'd come out and they're like, sorry, we couldn't get the needles in, and I'd be covered in bruises, black and blue. And I threw myself off it was very dramatic though, threw myself off a flight of stairs and broke my neck. And when I was in hospital, like my neck was always like this, and the doctor said, you look like you've broken your neck, are you okay? They start wording up what you're already going through. So you're in your past life stuff. So all these things. I've got a very strong 2 guides, Neem Krali Baba and a Tibetan teacher. And so that's the other one. Memories of being an Egyptian queen, there's some Illuminati stuff there. Meeting people with all these things, it's really, I'm okay that people have all these things, but energetically it's hard to be around, and I literally became, someone could walk into a room from the other side of the room and I would envision I would be holding a pin. And I'm like, oh no, I didn't want to do that. This is the hardest thing. People's egos would just shatter in my company, and it was so cringeworthy and awkward, and I hated it. And I just walk up to me and go, hey, I'm a big shot, by the way. And I was like, oh, don't. And then they would just stumble over their own words, fart and embarrass themselves and look at me and go, oh, and then walk out. And I was like, oh, and just came in to get, they're just the humiliation of others tortured me, and I knew when it was about to happen, because I would just become this. I was so pleased when I found this picture. So I've got 5 minutes. I met a Lama. He came to my town, Launceston. The competitive friend said, you've got to meet this person, because everything she wanted to compete with me. She was great. Everything she was competing with me with. She took me to all these things. She's like, you've got to meet this Lama. He's going to like me the best. Come with me. And we know how that worked out. We became best buds. He became a Rinpoche, which means he was recognised by his teachers as having previous incarnations, and I saw all that within him. And he came to me and he said, can you see that? I'm like, yeah, you're good. You're a Rinpoche. It's all good. One time he was working out what he was doing with his life in Australia, so he came here for 6 years. There was all sorts of stuff. It's a huge story. It's great. And I love it. It's a great part of my life, and I'm still very close to him, and he might come to the Staff Event Conference next year if we do number 2. He wants 100 people. No, I said he'd always come if there's 10, but I said, well, let's get you 100 one year. So anyway, he was trying to just make his mark in the West, and he said, I'm going to do this and maybe make some money here and set up an orphanage and a hospital and give some money to the monks. And then he was showing me all these pictures of the monks that needed help, and then a picture was in that little folder, and there's a picture of the nuns, and they were in abject poverty. And I said, why are the living conditions so different from the monks and the nuns? And I'm so sorry, Lama Sotan, I'm so sorry, I'm so embarrassed to see you. This is probably why he's not here. And he just said, well, they're women. It's their karma. And he was new to Australia, and I said, well, you can do that, but then it's your karma, right? It's your karma. It's your karma if you're supporting them, and not that one. And he put his head down, and now he sponsors women. He's a nunnery. He's done huge work for women, and I feel connected to that. I feel that he and I were very, very connected. But he was learning, and I didn't think he wasn't, and he was the nicest person. I mean, I love this man very, very dearly. He's helped a lot of people, and he's not sexist. His culture is, so, and he just didn't understand. But I had spiritual awakenings in his presence. This is an important one, and I've got like a few minutes. Before you assume you're crazy, make sure you're not surrounded by people. So I was surrounded by that friend who eventually, she came to my house, and I put the kettle on. Yeah. I put the kettle on, and my friend turned up, and I'm like, your coffee's there. And she's like, oh, you know that I'm coming. Because she was so competitive with me that I just turned into like the most amazing wizard in her company. I've never been such a great teacher except for in her company, because she didn't want me to be that, and I just kept one-upping, and I didn't do it intentionally. So it's a sign of, it's often a sign. If I start becoming really psychic, there's a reason. So anyway, she came over and there was this noise, there were all these voices and masks and entities, and there was this bark, 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 and I'm like, it's like there's a dog in my head. She said, I put a dog in my head to protect me from all the schizophrenic things, and I was like, I'm out of here, so I took off. I had one friend and she was that crazy and it wasn't doing me any good. I went around Australia with my son, the doctor said some things, 21 and spiritual, I had some friends, there's my Lama, then my sister's my little earth soul sister, she's very much an earthling, she's not like stars, she knows she's not from the stars, she says, she listens to everything I said, I'm the lightning and she's the lightning rod, she grounds everything. At 14 I was telling her everything I was experiencing and she was cool with it. There he is, oh, so... he's actually a mantis being and he's all sorts of things. He's also one of the great golden beings. He's shown me things about who he is. But he laughed and he said, you think I'm a guru, you think I'm human. Oh, that's so funny. Let's look at who we really are. So he's a starseed. Kamapa, 17th version of Kamapa in the Tibetan Buddhist lineage of Kaju. This child has been here before. Seriously. Can anyone else not see that? I mean, that... So he started blessing people when he was 4. So I'm in part of the Kaju lineage and I quite like that. And I talk to Kamapa telepathically and a lot of the lamas. I do a lot of stuff with Buddhist teachers on an energy level. They're teaching me this on a long way off it. The rainbow body, turning into the rainbow body. We have seen that slide a few times this weekend. So these guys here again, these are some of just the illustrative drawings. I've never seen one look quite like that. I've certainly seen them look like this. And what we see there is when we're dealing with dark, so these creatures, everyone's really afraid of these sorts of creatures, yeah? As a human being, we think, oh my God, I can't deal with this. What if the reptilians get us? What if a demon gets us? What if all these bad ETs and the Mars stuff and all the stuff you're going to hear about this afternoon is dark? You're going to hear some dark stories. And I just wanted to say before we get into that if we look at these beings, right? See this guy, he looks like he can kill and destroy absolutely anything. But the way I look at it is I'm not very grounded. I'm off in, energy land, I'm colour and all this sort of stuff. And like, he's really solid. It's like asking someone to punch, say, I said to someone one day, it was like, settle down, you cannot beat a tsunami with fists. You can't fight waves with fists. There are a lot of things these creatures do not possess the ability to beat. I do karate with my son and I love it because, a big guy comes in, he's like, I'm going to be really amazing, I'm karate, I'm strong, or I do these other things. And the teacher just, first lesson's too easy. Teacher pulls over the young, really often almost prepubescent, just to really knock that ego down. So brings over some 12, 13-year-old girl sometimes, and they just zip around that big old thing, dance around and around until he's worn out, and then she might just kick him in the, to the side of the knee, and knees don't bend backward, they like to bend a certain way, and he'll be down, and when a big person falls down, they're down hard. And this is the reminder, is that there are a lot of negative creatures out there. There are a lot. There is no one, nothing that we cannot find the opposite to, the balance to. We just have to be the ones that are flexible. When this being comes around, I then become like air. And guess what? These things don't like love and light. I become like a new age. I'm just love and light. That's all I am. And they're like, they don't like that. They can't do anything with it. I become nothing. I stopped thinking. They need you to be grasping for a thought so they can grab at that thought. They need to manipulate you. They have nothing on you unless they can get to your thoughts and get you to do. They've got to talk you into something. So I stopped talking. The other thing, I'm winding up, and I know that it's 1 o'clock, is that when someone asks you a question, so if I was to ask any of you, who here thinks who here resonates with the term starseed? Put your hands up. Is there lots of people? Cool. And the thing is that when I ask that question, it's like a light show. Ding, 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 ding. Everyone's colour. Like, forget the question and the answer, don't really care. The point is that when you're asked something, you have this innate response to start thinking. These guys are always trying to get into your head. Anything, anywhere on the planet, wherever they are, they're trying to get into your head. They're trying to hijack your thoughts. And what I do is I don't answer questions. Screen. And there was a little incident this morning and someone said to me, because I reworded things, and the person said to me, you and your words. Yes, words are very important. Words are like spells. Thoughts are very important. Every thought is a spell. So if I don't want to answer a question, you see, you all just answer questions, and you probably trust me, but but I've seen people do presentations like this, and they say, look, I've got so much information, and you know what, I mean, it's going to blow your mind. You're going to be scrambled for a bit. You're going to be scrambled, yeah? I mean, the amount of information I'm going to give you is just, it's going to be too hard for you. It's going to be this and this and this. And then you're going to be, that's a spell, you know? And I see it. And I do watch people who do presentations like this. And I see spell and I see demonic entity drop in. I see it drop out. Watch the Super Bowl. It's on this weekend in America. And the halfway show is a great display of entity and demonic possession. There's one where Beyonce was performing a couple of years ago, and it's very well known, and the entity pops in. But then, yes, it's all online on YouTube, but then there's a song that she switches, and there's a song she sings, and that demonic being jumps out. So there it comes in, now it goes, oh, now she's singing a beautiful song, and she's the typical Beyonce that people know. And part of what happens with entities is they will jump into, they're very attracted to light beings, they're very attracted to light workers, they're super attracted to starseeds because you're a great front for them. You can play all the light that they need, and then when you're weak or tired or busy, or you know there's a little drama and you left your phone at home, then those beings happened this morning, then those beings, that's when they jump in. That's what they want to do. They want to jump in then. They don't need you all the time. If they can get you all the time, they'll take it. But, you know, a lot of the time they just want you part-time. They like your front to be very light. You're the bakery. You know, in the 007 movies, and the guy goes into the bakery to get his hot donut, except that that's the front and behind it is the big, you know, crime scene. We have a front, and they like us to be the front, and they like to be pulling the strings behind them. So there's a lot of stuff, and I've got to finish. So and I do want to do this just before we get on to Tony, is that psychically I've seen these things in my mind, tapes, reels of tape, and I've sort of pulled at a tape and I'm like, what is this? And I had this thing where it was like, you will wear uncomfortable, tight clothing. I was like, well, that's a bit lame and what the hell's that? And I kept pulling it, and there are all these conditions on how I would hold myself, how I would walk. And they're just like mundane programs, but they keep you restricted. And so I didn't read the whole tape. I could have kept pulling, and there was all sorts of there were just programs on it, but I just pulled the whole tape out and threw it out, and I felt a lot better. And everything sort of about my personal appearance and things like that sort of changed. So the other thing I had was these glass beams, all sorts of implants and tools, but I'll finish up. And sometimes they grow beings inside you energetically. So I know we know all of these, but I had, so what I do is remove entities, right? So when I do that, it's like anything that's not of me, that's not supposed to be in me, may be removed. And I could sense I still had something. What they did was, you'll find out about who they are, but what they did was they birthed something in me so that it didn't feel like it wasn't home. And this was a lot to do with my asthma. I had so they energetically, holographically put a being into, and said, this body is your home. You need this body to live. And it would live off my bodily fluid, so it would irritate my lungs, create mucus. It sounds disgusting, and that's what it fed off. And so whenever I did entity removals, it didn't get removed because it totally belonged with me. It was, we were one. So that was the most disturbing thing I've ever been through. And I've been through some disturbing things. I met a guy named Crowley Baba. I was like, you're going to hook up with this guy, he's a starseed. It's all really cool. Mantis, going around. I have lots of experience. I've seen these beings, but I've had lots of experiences travelling all over the world as mantis beings and doing things. So, and I got some John of God healing, which is awesome. And I've gone over, and I'm sorry, Tony. So that's, just some of what I do. So I met Tony online because I had a vision. I saw Tony's interview with Michael Seller. And then a few months later, I had a dream, and I woke up and I told Guy, and I said, I think that dream that I had was about that guy we saw in a YouTube video. And the dream involved me seeing like two black shadows. They're both men. And the shadow, first of all, pushed the other shadow, two, figures, and then the other one pushed. Anyway, they started tumbling and fighting, and then one really dominated the other one, and then they dominated in the best way that they could, and then they killed that person, and then they ate their soul, and then they took their soul. And I saw this play of how masculine energies can dominate one another, but it was very surreal. And then Guy sent Tony Rodriguez a message and said, I think you should connect with my partner, she's really psychic, and I think there's a thing. So we got chatting, and Neem Crowley Baba came in and he said, do your thing. So I just merged in with Tony's consciousness. I lost time. I completely... Tony doesn't... We haven't had a chance to catch up, but we will while he's here. But I lost time, and my soul fractured. I felt like I was in 2 or 3 different dimensions at once. A darkness came over me, and I know with entities they will scan people and they find where your weaknesses are and attack. That's what they do. And deprogramming, by the way, is everything the opposite of that. You scan someone and find where they're insecure and put love in there. You find all the places you can put love. If you know how the dark works, you know how the light works, and vice versa. It's really easy. So it gives all the codes away, like my friend who kept giving everything away. She had an entity on it. So what I did was I merged with Tony's consciousness, and I used mantras, and I took myself to complete sovereignty and just did mantras. And all I really wanted to do was have him like closer, because he's in America, and just so I could maybe do that in his company and see how he feels if I sing a mantra and do that complete sovereignty, because he felt it and he was in America. And he said, you're doing something and it feels good, and I just know that I have a really strong connection with you and Guy. So I'm going 10 minutes over, and I'm very sorry. Thank you, everyone. Can I be Tony's introduction because we're 10 over?
Yeah, so that's it. That's good.
That's good. So if you just have a couple of minutes and we'll get Tony up to speak. Tony needs like all day, but he's only got a little bit of time. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, so we've got lunch break, so we'll be back up here at 2:30, so you've got an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes now, but that's fine. So this is a catered event, so you've got either your full conference pass, hand things, bracelets, or your